Crypto XRP, explained like you're 7 years old, simple and complete. Hey there! Today we're going to talk about something called XRP, and I'm going to explain it so simply that even a 7-year-old could understand it perfectly. Imagine you want to send your friend who lives in Japan some of your allowance money. Right now, that's really hard and expensive. You'd have to ask your parents, they'd have to go to the bank, fill out tons of paperwork, pay big fees, and it might take days for your friend to get the money. That's exactly the problem XRP was created to solve. But for grown-ups and big companies who need to send money all around the world every single day. But before we dive deeper, make sure to hit that subscribe button because I'm going to make crypto so simple that you'll understand it better than most adults by the end of this video. So what exactly is XRP? Think of XRP like a super-fast messenger that carries money messages between banks all over the world. You know how when you want to tell your friend something really quickly, you might use your phone to send a text message? Well, banks used to be like people who could only send letters through the mail. Slow, expensive, and sometimes the letter gets lost. XRP is like giving all the banks in the world smartphones so they can send money messages instantly, cheaply, and safely. Let me tell you a story to make this even clearer. Imagine there's a big playground where all the banks from different countries come to play. The American bank wants to send money to the Japanese bank, but they don't speak the same language and they don't trust each other very much. So they need a translator who everyone trusts. That translator is XRP. XRP speaks everyone's language and helps all the banks talk to each other and send money back and forth quickly and safely. But here's the really cool part. Remember how I said it used to take days to send money to other countries? With XRP, it takes just 3 to 5 seconds. That's faster than it takes you to tie your shoes. And remember how it used to cost a lot of money in fees? With XRP, it costs almost nothing. Like finding a penny on the ground kind of nothing. Now you might be wondering, who created this amazing XRP? It was created by some really smart people at a company called Ripple. Think of Ripple like the company that makes the special phones that all the banks use to talk to each other. But here's something important to understand. XRP and Ripple are like cousins, not twins. They're related, but they're not the same thing. XRP can work without Ripple just like you can still play with a toy even if the company that made it closes down. Let me explain how XRP actually works with a simple example. Let's say Bank A in America wants to send $1,000 to Bank B in Japan. In the old way, Bank A would have to find other banks in between to help carry the money, kind of like playing telephone with 5 different people. Each person in the middle wants to be paid, so by the time the message gets to the end, a lot of the money is gone in fees. With XRP, it's like Bank A and Bank B are sitting right next to each other. Bank A says, "I want to send $1,000. XRP instantly translates this and tells Bank B you're getting $1,000 worth of Japanese yen. And boom, it's done in 3 seconds. Now here's where it gets really interesting. XRP isn't just faster and cheaper, it's also much more reliable. You know how sometimes your internet stops working or your video game glitches? The old banking system had those problems too. Sometimes money would get stuck or lost. XRP is like having the most reliable internet connection ever. It works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It never takes a vacation, never gets sick, and never sleeps. But let's talk about why some people get really excited about XRP and why others are worried about it. The people who love XRP say it's going to change how all money moves around the world. They think that in the future, every bank will use XRP, which would make XRP extremely valuable. It's like if you had collected Pokemon cards before they became super popular. The people who worry about XRP have a few concerns. Some think that banks might create their own systems instead of using XRP. Others worry about something called regulation, which is like rules that governments make about money. Speaking of rules, there was a big legal fight between Ripple and the US government. The government was basically saying, "We're not sure if XRP is following all our rules." But recently, Ripple mostly won that fight, which made a lot of XRP fans very happy. Now, let's talk about something called the XRP ledger. This is like a giant notebook that keeps track of every XRP transaction ever made. But this notebook is special because it's not kept in one place, it's copied and kept in thousands of computers around the world. This means that no one person or company can cheat or change the records. It's like if your entire class had to agree before anyone could change an answer on a test. Pretty hard to cheat that way. Here's a fun fact about XRP. Unlike Bitcoin, where new coins are created by mining, all XRP coins were created at the very beginning. There are 100 billion XRP coins total, and that number will never change. It's like if there were only 100 billion Pokemon cards ever made, and once they're all given out, no more will ever be printed. But here's something even cooler. Every time someone uses XRP to send money, a tiny amount of XRP gets destroyed forever. So actually, the number of XRP coins slowly gets smaller over time. It's like if every time you traded a Pokemon card, you had to tear up a tiny corner of it. This might make XRP more valuable over time because there's less of it, but there's still plenty for everyone to use for many, many years. Now, you might be wondering, can regular people like you and me buy XRP? Yes, you can. But remember, buying crypto is like buying a lottery ticket. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, and you should never spend money you can't afford to lose. If a grown-up wants to buy XRP, they can go to special websites called exchanges, kind of like online stores for crypto. But just like you wouldn't spend all your allowance on candy, grown-ups shouldn't spend all their money on crypto. Let me tell you about some of the banks and companies that are already using XRP. There's Bank of America, which is one of the biggest banks in America. There's also Santander, which is a big bank in Europe, and many others around the world. It's like if all the coolest kids in school started using a new app, and then everyone else wanted to try it too. But XRP isn't just for banks. Some people think it could be used for other things too, like sending money to family in other countries or even paying for things online. The possibilities are really exciting. However, XRP also has some challenges. The biggest one is that it has to compete with other ways of sending money. There are other cryptocurrencies trying to do similar things, and there are also traditional companies working on making money transfers faster and cheaper. It's like if XRP was in a race, and there are lots of other really fast runners also trying to win. Another challenge is that some people don't trust XRP because they think it's too controlled by the Ripple company. They prefer cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that aren't controlled by any company at all. But supporters of XRP say that having a company behind it actually makes it more reliable and easier for banks to trust and use. So, is XRP a good investment? Well, that's like asking if it's going to rain next Tuesday. Nobody knows for sure. What we do know is that XRP has some really cool technology, it solves a real problem, and some big companies are already using it. But we also know that crypto can be very risky, and prices can go up and down like a roller coaster. Here's the most important thing to remember about XRP and all cryptocurrencies. They're still very new and experimental. It is like if someone just invented the first car and people were trying to figure out if cars would replace horses. Some people were really excited about cars, others thought they were dangerous and would never catch on. We're still in the early days of figuring out how crypto will change our world. So let me summarize what we learned about XRP today. XRP is like a super fast, super cheap messenger that helps banks around the world send money to each other instantly. It was created by a company called Ripple to solve the problem of slow, expensive international money transfers. XRP works on something called the XRP ledger, which is like a giant, unhackable notebook that keeps track of all transactions. There are 100 billion XRP coins total, and that number will never increase, but it might decrease slightly over time. Some big banks and companies are already using XRP, which makes some people think it will become very valuable in the future, but it also faces competition and regulatory challenges. The most important thing to remember is that while XRP has exciting potential, all cryptocurrencies are risky investments, and you should never invest money you can't afford to lose. If this explanation helped you understand XRP better, smash that like button and subscribe for more Crypto Explained, simply. And let me know in the comments, What other cryptocurrencies would you like me to explain like you're 7 years old? Remember, the crypto world is exciting and full of possibilities, but it's also important to learn and understand before making any decisions. Keep learning, stay curious, and who knows? Maybe you'll be part of the next big breakthrough in how money works around the world. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.